around the world, taking in a remarkable range of people and places beginning with the letter R. Joining me tonight are riding the rails, it's Benjamin Zephaniah. Roving the roads, it's Josh Whittaker. Racing down the rapids, it's Sarah Pascoe. And running to the restroom, it's Alan Davis. And let's go round the horns. Benjamin goes. Josh goes. Sarah goes. Butch. And Alan goes. Right, let's start with a really riveting question. Who is this woman and what can she do?
She looks like my primary school teacher.
Terrifying.
She's beautiful.
Does the audience know who it is?
Rosie the Riveter.
Minus points already.
I know. It's a common misconception. So she was a poster girl, apparently, for women's contribution to the war effort in the Second World War. That's what it is commonly thought. The poster does date, in fact, from 1943, but it was actually used only for 10 days in the American Westinghouse factories. But it was part of a series of 42 posters, and the idea was to halt union activity. It was to prevent strike action. Then what happened was the poster was rediscovered in the 1980s and it was given a sort of new lease of life. The real Rosie the Riveter is based on somebody that you might have heard of. So that is the real Rosie the Riveter. Who do you think it looks like?
Is it Roseanne Barr?
I think it looks like Joe Brand.
Doesn't it look like Joe Brand?
Do you not think?
Yeah.
But it is based on somebody famous. It's painted by Norman Rockwell, and he based it on the prophet Isaiah from Michelangelo's Sistine Chapel. I know. You wouldn't think it.
That's rather cool, isn't it?
I know, it's absolutely marvellous.
So when you say we might recognise him because it's someone we know...
No, I said it was based on somebody famous. So
How famous is he?
Isaiah?
Isaiah?
Yeah.
I reckon they'd book him for this show.
Yeah. So Rosie is eating a ham sandwich. You can't quite see it in this picture, but her foot is crushing a copy of Mein Kampf. It was actually based on a 19-year-old telephone operator called Mary Doyle Keefe. She was paid $10, and she wasn't a riveter at all. But the image of actual Rosie the Riveter fell out of use due to copyright restrictions, and the gap in the market was sort of filled by the We Can Do It version that we saw earlier. The real name, Rosie the Riveter, came from a song, and we think we can have a listen to it.
Keeps a sharp lookout for sabotage, sitting up there on the fuselage. That little affair can do more than a man can do. Rosie, the Riveter, Rosie.
I love that. That little frail can do more than a male. Makes you feel good about yourself, doesn't it? On the subject of QI panelist resemblances, I said how much I thought that poster looked like Joe Brand. In July 2018, there's a Twitter user called Sam Jordan, and he tweeted the following. Going through some old photos, a welcome surprise. Is in fact Alan Davis.
Wow.
Can you stand up next to it, Alan?
Yeah.
Let's have a look.
Well, I think she's gorgeous.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Now for a bit of Randy Scandi. Here are some words of Scandinavian origin. To be more specific, they're of Norwegian origin, since the Danes would never use such stupid words. Who can tell me what they mean? Have a look at some of these.
Crotching is obvious.
Yes, what is it?
Michael Jackson does.
Oh, yes, like a bit of a move, a crotching.
Oh!
Yeah.
Oh, God, I thought you were thinking of a very different thing.
You're thinking of flash bun.
Yeah.
I saw something the other day online. I don't know if I can talk about this, because it's really dirty.
Darling,
Come on.
You've already gone down to Michael Jackson's crotch, haven't you?
No, it was these people who... They're kind of pranksters, I guess, and they literally lick toilets.
What?
What?
Yeah.
As a hobby, like a sort of niche hobby?
I guess they get lots of likes and views on YouTube and stuff like that.
Wow, I mean, I've been worrying about shaking hands, but...
And you think that's flush bunking?
Sounds like a whiff swiddle to me.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you that biff squiggled means confused. Flush bunking actually means making no sense. Whiff swiddle is something that happens or moves very fast. And all of these words were invented by one person. Who do we think that might be?
A Norwegian person.
Well, of Norwegian origin.
Is it a footballer?
No, it is...
I'm out.
It was for the BFG.
Oh, Roald Dahl.
It is Roald Dahl. His parents were Norwegian immigrants. I mean, the Danes would never have anything so absurd. Here are a few Danish words, just to see if you can see what they mean.
Bagslag.
Yeah.
See, not funny to me at all.
What, bag slag?
No, it's
Bagslag.
bowsleigh.
Bowsley.
Bowsleigh.
Bowsleigh.
Yes. it
And is
means-
it still a slapper?
Dancing around the handbag.
Yeah. Sandra, come away, you bowsleigh.
No, it means backfire. Bowsleigh.
Well,
what-
it's the same as
Isn't
fart.
that what fart
Yes, that
is?
is fart, yeah.
Fart is the Danish word for speed. So you have to mind your fart. What about the other one? Anybody want to try?
Bog handle.
Big head.
Yeah, well, how do you pronounce that one?
Bull handle.
Bull handle.
No,
Sandra.
no. Bull handle. Bull handle.
Bull handle. This is so fun.
Bull means book, and handle is the handler of the book, so it's the bookshop. Bull handle.
Bookshop.
Yeah, bookshop. Bog handle.
So you'd go, I need to go...
to fart down to the bow handle.
bookshop.
I want to read 50 Shades of Grey because I'm a bashlag.
Roald Dahl is actually a very interesting fellow. He was a spy, briefly. He was a spy for the sort of covert operation set up by MI6 to spy in the United States. But he used his spy experiences to write screenplays. He wrote 2 Ian Fleming screenplays. He wrote the James Bond film You Only Live Twice and Chitty Chitty Bang Bang as well.
Wow.
But he made up over 500 words in BFG. Scrumptiddly-yumptious.
Snozcumber?
Snoscumber.
Snoscumber, yes, which was...
It was like a kind of bitter cucumber.
Yeah, it was a black and white stripe.
With little knobbles on the outside. I wish James Bond had eaten one of those instead of having a martini.
And have a snoscumber, please.
Slice.
Yes, wouldn't mind. That is an incredible book. Published in 1982, it has sold over 40 million copies and sells
Amazing.
another million every year. I know, right?
The BFG does.
Yeah, the BFG, yeah.
One of the dreams in one of the jars is that a book sells so well that even footballers on the pitch, that everyone in the world is reading the book. And it kind of is like that, isn't it? Everyone's read the BFG.
Not footballers.
Dahl, when he was buried, I love this, he was buried with his snooker cues, some very good burgundy, chocolates, HB pencils and a power saw, which I just think is...
What's he planning?
I don't know. What would you be buried with, Alan? What would, if you were to choose the bits and pieces?
I was just going to say my children.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dad of the Year. Yeah, no, I don't think that's appropriate.
It's not.
What about you, Josh?
I completed a jigsaw for the first time this week.
2-piece or what?
Yeah, how many?
I tell you how many pieces it was meant to be. 1,000.
Yeah.
It was 999 pieces.
Yeah.
So you didn't complete a jigsaw?
No.
It's just a brag
Can we
about
just-
something
yeah.
you failed at.
I didn't fail,
You
but...
did, darling, because when you say you completed a jigsaw, that is not what happened.
You didn't complete it.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, I want to be buried with the final piece of the jigsaw.
Anybody else? Got thoughts about it?
I think, yeah, just in case, a big book.
Yeah.
Because quite often there's big books that you wish you had time to read, like Infinite
dark,
Jest. Oh, and a torch? How many things are there?
In Birmingham Museum,
Yeah.
one of the exhibits is my first typewriter. And it's a typewriter that's almost 100 years old. I was a little kid.
Wow, you've aged well.
I was a little kid and this bloke looked at me and he went, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I said, I want to be a poet. And he went, well, here's a typewriter. And it's a beautiful piece. And I'd like to be buried with that so that when I'm decomposing, I'm still composing, basically.
Oh, I think that's nice. That's really nice.
Very nice.
But I am a little bit worried that the Birmingham Museum is going to be empty. But also have they got?
Yeah.
They've got Jasper Carrot's stool.
Oh, that's gone off by now, surely.
Not his stool.
Oh, I mean, sweet of him to offer it, but...
This is the weirdest show I've ever been on.
I met Jasper Carrot and I asked him about why he's called Jasper Carrot, and he said that's because his real name is Davis, and it's so boring. His name is Bob Davis.
Is that right?
Yeah, and that's the name of my middle child.
You want to be buried with?
Now, on to the Romans. What did they ever do for us?
I know what they didn't do.
What did they not
'Cause
do?
I've seen this programme before.
Yeah.
They didn't build roads.
No, they really did.
They
don't
did.
In Monty Python's Life of Brian, they ask, all right, but apart from, you know, the sanitation, the medicine, education, wine, public order, irrigation, roads, a freshwater system and public health, what have the Romans ever done for us? In fact, most of those items on the list already existed. They were improved upon rather than invented by the Romans. So they didn't invent roads, but they did certainly make them.
Did they invent aqueducts?
No, they did not invent aqueducts either. They were used by the Egyptians and the Babylonians for hundreds of years before the Romans.
Underfloor heating?
I mean, again, there is underfloor heating in other parts of the world.
Really?
Yes, I'm afraid so.
Pasta.
Pasta, they invented pasta, absolutely. No, all sorts of things that we think. So, for example, straight roads is one of the things that we think,
Yeah.
but we know straight roads existed in Ireland, which the Romans didn't even reach. They didn't even invent paved roads. The world's oldest paved road, which this is part of...
Looks like one of Josh's puzzles.
It's probably 4,500 years ago that this road was laid down. It's in Egypt. So it was laid down in order to build the monuments at Giza along the Nile. Who said aqueducts? Who said aqueducts?
I did.
You did,
Because
yeah.
that's what I remember from learning the first things we learned about Romans at school. Aqueducts were pretty big, and I thought I was going to see more of them in my life in the way that they were bigged up.
Yeah.
Like, before then, water couldn't even go over bridges.
Yeah. This one is in Nîmes in France.
What
Beautiful.
happened there? So they didn't go high enough the first time?
And then where is the water, then?
It's down below in the river.
So, on that very top of the bridge?
Yeah, on the very top of the bridge. In the 7th century BC, the Assyrian king built one to bring water all the way from the nearby mountains to his palace in Nineveh. So lots of aqueducts before the Romans. There is something the Romans did give us, which is the wicker man. So the very first evidence that we have of the wicker man style of pagan sacrifice comes from Julius Caesar. He claimed that the Druids burned people alive inside wicker cages.
Oh, wow.
The thing is, he's thought to have invented it because he wanted to show how barbaric everybody was in Britain. Although maybe the wicker man has not... We have no evidence of it because...
Because they took it apart to make some cool chairs in the 80s.
Does anybody want to see a Peter Rabbit wicker man?
Yeah.
OK.
Oh.
OK,
Always.
well... So, in 2016, they made a 40-foot, there it is, straw statue of Peter Rabbit. It was created to celebrate the 150th anniversary of
And
Beatrix.
it's full of rabbits.
Well, it was set alight by arsonists. Or Mr McGregor, which is the one I'm voting for. And we had a picture of it on fire, but I couldn't bear to show it.
Oh.
Show it.
No.
Show
also
it.
feel like rabbit.
No.
Show it.
Yeah.
Show it.
No.
Show it. Come on, you lot. What sort of rabble are you? I'm trying to rouse you. You want to see the burning rabbit? Do it!
What is wrong with you?
It's not a real rabbit. It's just a picture of a fire.
I'm not showing Peter Rabbit on fire. It's not happening.
Yeah. And so was it supposed to... Sandy?
Wow, I'm being nice for the odd child who watches. It's not happening.
You're a very odd child watching this.
That's it. Anything else that they invented? Benjamin, in your field, there is something that they invented. They invented bound books.
Oh.
So it wasn't until the Romans that it was thought a good idea to put lots of pieces of paper into some leather. Up until then, it had been scrolls entirely. So bound books we owe to the Romans. And Latin, obviously. But the welfare, the idea of welfare is a Roman concept. So they had something a bit like a sort of corn dole. So if the poor were really suffering, they would give out and look after the needy. And that is a concept that hadn't existed before.
I think there are some African scholars that would really disagree with that. Because there's lots of evidence that African villages used to share and they would never let anybody go poor. There's a Jamaican word called partner. It's like partner, but partner, where people put money into a kitty in the village, and it's to make sure that no one goes poor.
I think there's a serious issue in history that probably a lot of that stuff that happened was not written down, and so it has been lost.
Well, you know, this... I'm going to talk about what I teach at university, but I teach the oral tradition, and so a lot of it is handed down word to mouth. And a lot of Western scholarship just missed it because it wasn't written down. In West Africa, they used to have this thing called Anansi stories. Anansi was this kind of trickster spider that would always get in trouble and somehow work his way out of it. And there was always a little bit of wisdom left for you to learn from, especially for children. And, I mean, these have been going for hundreds and hundreds of years, and they went to the Caribbean. And then, I think it was in the mid-90s, a British publisher published them. And it upset a lot of people, because he's supposed to move and change with the time, but now you've set him in stone. And this is the point, you know, Anansi now, if you were telling an Anansi story to make your children wiser, it would involve the internet or whatever it is, whatever's going on in the zeitgeist at the time.
And keep it moving along.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. So that was the Romans, but what about the Romanians? What did they ever do for us?
Oh, this is interesting.
Yeah.
Is it to do with agriculture?
Oh, in what way?
Just they're good at it.
Oh.
Vampires.
Is it something like the feudal system? Is it something about kind of how people divided work?
What's he going to get out of his trousers there? What's he reaching for?
You know what he's going to get out of his
You're
trousers.
not going to do that here.
I'm specifically talking about Transylvania.
Oh, vampires.
Vampires.
We all lost points. I said vampires
Please
about
do it again.
2 minutes ago.
Did you? I...
Keep up!
I've never before realised that was sentient.
Oh, yeah.
It's an actual person.
It's the nature of AI. Over years,
It's learned.
through the constant back and forth. Trouble is, this brain is developed mainly off of me.
So not vampires, myths about undead beings who come out at night and gorge on the blood of the living. I mean, that's been around in almost every single culture for millennia. So it isn't that, but I can tell you, it begins with the Edict of Turda.
I'm further away from the answer now.
And it comes... I can tell you there's a town called Turda, which is... Did somebody snigger?
It's called Turda. Yeah, it's twinned with Pua.
It's one of the most beautiful places in the world. It's a tiny Romanian town in Transylvania. It is stunning.
Is it Turda or is it ta-da?
In a way, it was kind of ta-da, because nobody had ever thought of this before. They invented religious tolerance. It had never really existed before, so in most of medieval Europe, you absolutely had to agree with the church. And then in 1556, there was a student, a Polish student, who said, I don't understand why we all have to believe in the Trinity. I would prefer to believe just in God. And this started a new religion called Unitarianism. And the world's only Unitarian king, King Janos Zygmunt, he set forth this Edict of Turda, and it stated that a preacher may preach the gospel by his own personal conception at any place if that community is willing to accept him, or if it isn't, no one should force him just because their soul is not satisfied with him. And it's amazing that was a revolutionary thing. So that was in 1568, that you can believe what you like, was absolutely revolutionary. Here's my other favourite thing that Romania gave the world. December 2014, the world's longest ever sausage.
Oh.
It measured 38.99 miles. What? I know. Yeah, it holds the Guinness World Record. And it was... I don't know why we went back to him with his...
Would you like to see the beginning of the world's longest sausage?
Was it, did you say 38.9?
38.99 miles, 62...
So close to 39 miles.
I know, right? 62.75 kilometres.
I just think when something's that big, it's just not a sausage, is it, really?
No, it's just a meaty line, isn't it? Also, what's the point? And no offence if it's any of you, but why do people want to break stupid records? Like, why?
No offence if it's any of you.
Hang on, is there anybody in the audience who holds a record for anything at all? Anything at all? Anybody? Yes?
Yeah.
Where are you?
More than one. Knew they were
No,
dweebs.
wait a minute. Where are you? Stand up. Who said yes? Yes. What's your name?
My name's Dave.
Hello, Dave. What do you hold the record for?
I was part of a team who broke the longest line of baked pizzas.
Yes!
I'm not clapping it. I'm not clapping it, Dave. I'm not clapping it, Dave. Can I ask Dave a question?
Yes, ask Dave a question.
Did all the pizzas get eaten?
They got given to homeless people.
OK, now I'm clapping. I'm into it, Dave.
You were a second away from saying it's just a long line of cheesy dough.
Yeah. But the long sausage was also given out and local charities benefited.
OK.
The Romanians gave us religious tolerance and the world's biggest sausage. Who would be the worst person to borrow a glove from?
O.J. Simpson?
The guy that gave me a strip search at Heathrow Airport, so wouldn't want to borrow a glove from him.
Did you do the whole... I don't know why I'm doing
Really?
that. I imagine there's not that much movement in it.
Yeah. You're not changing a light bulb up there.
Yeah.
I was coming from a particular part of the world which is known as a source of narcotics, and I look suspicious.
Was it Kensington?
And they gave me a strip search.
That's hard.
That's awful.
Yeah.
What did they
It's my worst
find?
nightmare. Yeah.
2 kilos of cocaine, but that's not the point.
They found the world's longest sock.
They found nothing. I am innocent. I'm a good boy. I haven't
Quite
broke
right.
the law for months.
A while. So I'm going to give you a clue. The worst person to borrow a glove from, he was Russian, he was romantic.
Oh.
His name begins with
Rasputin.
You've done it to us again!
That was a trick of the highest order, Sandy.
That's so much fun. Rachmaninoff. Sergei Rachmaninoff. He had huge hands. You should have keyboards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you have a look at the keyboards, he could span 12 keys. So that is Rachmaninoff's hand that you have there. So put it up against your hand. He could span 12 notes. How many can you span with a single hand?
Oh, I got really smart.
I'm on 10.
You can do 10.
9, just about.
Just about 9.
Yeah.
And Sarah, what about you? Using all 5 fingers.
15.
Yeah.
So there is an argument that some of the virtuoso pieces on piano are inherently sexist because women simply can't manage.
Possible.
The thing about him that makes me so angry about the world, in a way, is that his very first symphony, he was so severely criticised by a man called César Cui that he didn't actually compose again for 4 years. It put him in such a depression.
Yeah, it's like my first Edinburgh. In there.
Should never Google your own name,
But
should
actually,
you?
that's an important life lesson, is that the biggest hurdle is that some people won't like what you do, and it mustn't stop
No, I
you
think
doing
you're right, and he's a really good example of that. So there is an issue for women playing piano pieces because if you want to play large chords and so on, you really need a span of at least 8.5 inches, and that eliminates 24%
Does it really?
of men, 87% of women. But there's very few women in the virtuoso piano playing.
I didn't know that.
And it's partly to do with the span of the hands. The world record for biggest hands, held by an American, Robert Pershing Wadlow. This is... I know, this is... Look at It's hugely astonishing, isn't it? His hands measured 12.75 inches, so 32.3 centimetres, from the wrist to the top of the middle finger. He's also the tallest man on record.
I was just going to say,
That's
is it to
good,
scale?
yeah.
He was 8 foot 11.1 inches. I mean, he was
yeah.
astonishing. You sometimes see a model of him outside the Ripley, believe it or not, museums.
Yeah.
Man.
And really sadly, he died quite young. He was still growing by the time he died, and his ankle brace chafed him, and he got an infection, and he died because. I know, it's really sad.
Yeah.
There is one woman who is said to have had absolutely huge hands, and it's George Eliot, the author, aka Mary Ann Evans. And when she died, so we're talking about 1880, the family were dismayed that a neighbour told an anecdote about her having a giant right hand. And the neighbour said she used to show it with some pride, and it was because she worked in the family dairy as a teenager, and she had to turn the churn to make the butter, and so that made her hand enormous. But they were so embarrassed that any potential biographers had to absolutely guarantee that they would include a rebuttal of the story that she had large hands, because it is not something that women want to be
But people
proud
are
of.
awful about her. They were all of the descriptions of her at the time were that she was very unattractive. Like, that undermined her other work, wasn't it?
Yeah. You can visit George Eliot's childhood home. Maybe, I don't know, a tiny disappointment. It is now the Nuneaton Premier Inn and Beefeater restaurant. So...
You know what?
Massive door handle.
That isn't that far from Birmingham.
Yes.
Museum.
Yeah.
Why
You
don't
could
we
do two
all
in one
go?
day.
Yeah, let's all go.
Do you think they have a salad bar with bacon bits? I like that.
You're asking the wrong team.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yes, the vegans. Do you think they've got a salad bar?
Both vegetarian.
Am I the only
You're the only
sensible-
pig eater on the table. Yeah.
You're the only one with blood on your hands here.
Your tiny hands.
I know. Am I the meat in the sandwich?
You are...
You know what they say about people with big hands, big spans. Right, let's put the hands away. How would you rate your chances in a Chihuahua race?
Oh, I'd beat the shit out of them.
They can't be that fast.
They're
mean-
small and nippy. I mean, it depends how long the distance is, because I feel like they are fast.
Well, I'd have problems if, like, long distance, if there's any, like, Kenyan chihuahuas.
Well, it is long distance that we are, in fact, talking about.
Oh,
we are talking about the place Chihuahua. So there is a tribe, the Raramuri tribe, in Chihuahua, Mexico. They are brilliant, brilliant long-distance runners. And in 2017, a woman called Maria Lorena Ramirez, she beat 500 other female runners to win a 50K ultra-marathon dressed like this. She was wearing a long skirt, she was wearing sandals, she had no running gear. You can see she's holding a sort of baseball cap and a bottle of water. That was it. And she beat all 500 other runners in this race.
What were they wearing?
Running
Diving
gear.
bells?
Yeah, no. And in 2016, she came second in a 100K race in similar sort of racing.
Why is she not in the Olympic Games?
Well, this particular tribe are built to do endurance and not speed, and so marathons are actually too short for them to
They're just
succeed.
warming up.
They're really just getting themselves going. Wow. So the sandals, they're a traditional Mexican sandal. They're called a huaraches, and they're surprisingly good running shoes because they allow the foot to splay and move rather naturally. They are infinitely adjustable because they have this sort of multi-strap system, and they're extremely durable.
There's no room for a swoosh on there, though.
No, you can't get a swoosh on there. But there's about 50 to 70,000 people in this tribe, and they live in dispersed communities, so they do have to communicate by running very long distances. They can run 270 kilometres non-stop. They can comfortably cover 700 kilometres in a few days. And their secret weapon is that before they start running, they drink beer. I mean...
Is that where I've been going wrong?
Yes! Corn beer, Tesquino, it is sacred amongst the Raramuri. And they use these running skills not just to go and connect with people, but to hunt wild turkey. So you want to get a wild turkey, you chase the birds for hours. The birds can't fly for very long, so they repeatedly have to take off and land. It's very energy-consuming, and eventually the turkey goes, OK, you got me.
Again, I'd say wrong crowd.
Yeah.
It's so great how they murder this bird.
But beer is a huge thing. They use it as a cure. Apparently it only works if the doctor drinks some as well. The thing I like about their attitude to drinking beer is that what they believe is that there are two souls in the body. There's a large soul and a little soul. And the beer gets rid of the large soul and just leaves the little soul. And that's why we're more like children when we've had a drink. I think that's quite nice.
That's wonderful.
I've never drank... I drank once. One night I was at a party, and I thought, I'm going to try a drink. And I got drunk. And I remember walking into this room and seeing a settee, and I just kind of fell on it, and I thought I fell asleep. Apparently, I woke up, and then I did all kinds of things. I was like the life and soul of the party, and then I fell back on the settee and fell asleep. And I woke up the next morning, and I'll never forget it. There was this woman, and you know when you're young, everybody looks really older. She's probably 40 or whatever, but
That is old.
She looked like she looked like she'd been in the ring with Muhammad Ali. She had no teeth. She looked really rough. And I'll never forget her looking at me and going, "You were great last night."
Wow.
And she's here tonight.
She's now
110.
Is that the only time you've had a drink?
It's the only time. If I drink that much, I'm drunk. I just cannot drink.
Oh, wow, I wish I had that ability. I have to drink, you know.
2.
Right, moving on. What could this man do in 28 seconds? That's a silly laughter. Who's sniggering at the back of the class? He's Scottish. His name is Robert Liston. 19th century.
19th century.
He's a surgeon. He could amputate a leg in 28 seconds.
That's too quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I reckon I could do it quicker, actually.
have to-
Like, what's that, half a second?
No, but you have to tie all the veins together.
Oh, you've got to finish the
Yeah,
job.
well, you've got to finish it off. His catchphrase was "Time me, gentlemen." So, I think in those days, theatres were called that for a reason, because people sold tickets and there were spectators. So what happened on this one particular occasion, it did not go all that well. One time he accidentally chopped off a patient's testicles along with his leg.
No.
Too high up the leg.
I know, right?
It's not too high.
So you can see his assistant is holding figures, and there's lots of spectators
Holding
around.
2 spherical objects. You might want to put these back on.
On one occasion, he was doing the amputation, so you have to imagine he has to be fast because there's no anaesthetic.
Yeah.
He brought the knife down. He managed to sever 3 of his assistant's fingers. And as he brought it back up, he slashed the cloak of a spectator. The patient and the assistant both died later of gangrene. Their wounds became infected. And the story is that the spectator died of fright because he thought he had been stabbed. It is the only operation on record with a 300% mortality rate.
Did he lose his licence?
No, darling, people queued up to see him. They absolutely did. Because his mortality rate was 1 in 7. And
1 in 7?
Well, the average was 1 in 4. So, you know, people thought...
Before anaesthetic, doctors used to have a brandy before operations because it was actually horrific. It was awful, cutting into people who
So they
were
would-
awake.
yeah.
So they would have a couple of brandies and
No,
then...
I don't think he thought it was awful. He wore blood-spattered clothes, and people didn't know about sterilisation. People thought it meant he
Yeah.
was experienced. And there was sawdust on the floor to soak it up, and there were... sometimes
That's good.
A flautist would come in to play. I mean, it
So
was...
it's a proper good night out, then?
Yeah. That's why operating rooms are still called theatres today.
They had the same architects. People like Inigo Jones built theatres for plays and theatres for people to watch operations because they were entertainment. It was the same genre.
When was that photograph taken?
This is Charing Cross Hospital in 1901.
1901. It's like there's a Caribbean nurse there.
Yeah.
I mean, back then...
It's a nice addition to that picture, which I hadn't even thought about. But the idea that people don't make mistakes now, let me tell you, in 2019, a hospital in Leicester paid out £20,000 to a man they had circumcised by mistake. He'd gone in for a procedure on his bladder. He said he got distracted chatting to the nurses.
What?
Yeah, so he didn't notice he was having the wrong operation until it was too late. He described it as a real surprise.
20 grand, though.
The-
I'd take it.
Yeah. What was the biggest revelation in Bridget Hitler's diaries?
Hold on, is there really somebody called Bridget Hitler?
Yes.
You don't really hear much about any other Hitlers.
Yeah, I always thought that.
Just change your name to Carrot. It's much easier.
Can I just point out that we're not suggesting that Renee Zellweger is a Nazi? Can I just...
You have to do that at the start of every show, don't
Yes,
you?
I did.
Just once again, Renee Zellweger is not.
At the time of recording.
Yeah. But there was really a Bridget Hitler. She was married to Hitler's half-brother, Louis, in 1910, and they lived in Liverpool. And that is Bridget right there. And she wrote about her life with Hitler's half-brother. She claimed in her diaries that Hitler came and stayed with them. Academics dispute this, I have to tell you. But the thing that she revealed, which I really love, is that if Hitler won the war, what he wanted to do was to take Rochdale Town Hall, brick by brick, back to Germany. That was... What? Yes.
And that's what it was all about?
Yeah.
Why Rochdale?
Well, it is very beautiful, isn't it?
It does look beautiful.
And the Luftwaffe did use it as a landmark, so it was saved during the war. Ironically, the Luftwaffe destroyed Bridget Hitler's house.
Maybe Adolf Hitler didn't have a nice time when he stayed with her.
Yeah.
Let's go for Bridget's house. It's the third one from the end.
It's just the most fantastic Victorian Gothic architecture. It contains a toilet that has never been used because it was built for Queen Victoria, and as she didn't use it, nobody else has either.
They definitely have, Sandy. Yeah.
course they have. Whoever's got the key.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the idea of moving, you could have done this. You could have taken Rochdale Town Hall down and moved it to Germany. There are lots of historic examples of big buildings being moved. Anybody remember when London Bridge was moved? Anybody know where it went?
United States.
Arizona.
1976, it was put up for auction and was won by a man called Robert McCulloch, and he moved it to Arizona. It is now the second largest tourist attraction in Arizona after the Grand Canyon. Anyway, he paid $2.5 million for it, and it has certainly paid itself back, and he sold lots of residential property on the back of it and all that kind of thing. And the other one is Rosa Parks' house. So Rosa Parks famously
On the bus.
And the bus.
refused to give up her seat on the bus. That was in December the 1st, 1955. She later moved to Detroit to live with her brother, and that house, which was a tiny house...
They lifted it on a huge bunch of balloons.
No, it's in Berlin.
Berlin.
I know. Isn't that the strangest thing? It was an artist called Ryan Mendoza. They were going to demolish it, and he couldn't bear it. So he bought it and he rebuilt it in Berlin. And he does sort of sound performances. You can't go in it, apparently. It's not safe.
Is it a tourist attraction?
Well, he does sort of... he's a performance artist, so he does performances in and around it.
The strangest tourist attraction I've ever been to was the Hotel Lorraine, or Lorraine Hotel. It's a hotel where Martin Luther King was shot. And I think they don't do this now, but when I was there, you could stand on the balcony where Martin Luther King was shot, and they literally had his footprints, so you could stand in them.
Wow.
And the laser would shoot you.
No!
So literally, as if you were being shot just like Martin Luther King was shot.
But there's amount of time, like in for the anniversary of the Titanic, to go full circle, there was a theme park ride that opened in Japan of the Titanic sinking, and actually there's an amount of time where it becomes a historical fact and kind of empathy disappears.
But I think it's really weird now that you have tourist attractions and pubs and things called Jack the Ripper.
Yeah.
I always find
Well, that's
really
that
weird.
again. There's a whole cultural conversation now. That's so much more about the women. Number one, poverty in London, the women who were in danger, sex work at the time, the history of London. And it isn't just about a
There's a new
psychopathic
biography
killer.
recently released, isn't
It's
there?
about the 5 women.
About the
Yeah.
victims.
Yeah, no, it is very, very good. And now we've roamed way off course and right into the twilight zone of general ignorance. Fingers on buzzers, please. Which is the British lake with the greatest deepness? I'm going to give you a hint.
Yeah.
Its depth is absolutely monstrous.
Oh,
Yeah.
come on.
Windermere.
Good playing of the game.
Extra point for playing the game well. So it is not... it's not...
Loch Ness.
It's not. It's not Loch
I'm
Ness.
getting the hang of this.
The deepest lake in the UK is Scotland's Lake Moira. It is 310 metres deep. Loch Ness is 247 and a half. There is, however, in Loch Moira, a cryptozoological monster that rivals the Loch Ness monster. It's called Morag, which is so cute. It was last spotted in 2013. And the new theory about Loch Ness, actually, because there was a team of researchers from New Zealand in 2019 and they analysed water samples, they think it may be several giant eels that are living in the lake. Loch Ness gets its name from an old Scottish legend that featured the Gaelic lines, "Ta Loch Nessan, the Loch Nessan," just means, there's a loch now, there's a loch now. Who knows? Loch Moira is deeper than Loch Ness and has its own monster to boot. Here's someone who's absolutely full of herself, but where was this doll invented?
Oh.
Yes, Josh.
Minsk.
Good answer.
Yeah, very
Answer.
good.
Yeah, really specific. It's
It's in-
specific and it's wrong,
Oh, not me.
but we hadn't thought of it. They're called matryoshka, but it started its life in China. So more than 1,000 years ago, and then to Japan. But then in the 19th century, a Moscow workshop called Children's Upbringing took this idea and they created their own versions of these nesting
I've
dolls.
got one at home.
Yeah.
And it's got me, and then my wife, and then my 3 children. And the likenesses of everybody are pretty good, apart from me. I look a bit ridiculous.
We've done this one, which we think looks like you. Got the shirt on. Got the shirt on.
Good, yeah.
And then if we open it up inside... Let's see if I can get them all out. So then we've got Benjamin, and then we've got...
We all live in Allen.
We've got... Yeah.
And where's Josh?
Josh.
Unbelievable.
There you are. And even smaller than Josh
Is that you, Sandy?
is me inside. And what's
Who's
inside?
inside you?
Oh, it's a blue whale.
We should try and do that after the show.
Yeah. Now, where is the biggest rainforest in the world?
The Brazil.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, I know.
Someone had to do it.
Had to.
So there are two types of rainforest. There is tropical and there is temperate.
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 Isn't that just a forest?
What is the thing that classifies a rainforest?
The amount of rainfall.
The rain, yeah, absolutely. So the largest one is in Alaska. It's the Tongass National Forest. It covers 17 million acres.
Whoa,
it is breathtaking.
That's big.
But you also find them in Australia, in Japan, in Iceland, and indeed in the UK. So Snowdonia, Devon, Cumbria, Northern Ireland, the west coast of Scotland, they're all temperate rainforests. It's about 6% of the Earth's land surface area, but it's amazing because it's home to 50% of the species of flora and fauna. The Amazon alone is home to 10% of all species, including this, which is one of my favourite things, the South American Goliath bird-eater spider. It's the size of a puppy.
Oh, no, thank you.
Each of its legs is 1 foot long.
What?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, you've ruined my dreams for like a week. You like
You
that,
wouldn't
Sandy?
show us a rabbit on fire. You doing this to us?
I have got a friend who went to the world's largest rainforest, so if you want to know what it's like, Alaska. OK, we've run out of time. As our voyage draws to a close, let's take a look at the range of scores. In last place tonight, rambling in the Rotherham rain with -23. It's Sarah! In fourth place with -19, it's Alan. In third place with -7, it's the audience. With -6, beating the audience into second place, it's Josh.
Losers, losers, losers.
And our winner tonight, relaxing in a romantic resort with 3 points, it's Benjamin!
I'm so happy to be here. I want to thank my mother.
Anyway, it's thanks to Sarah, Benjamin, Josh and Alan. I leave you with this holiday reminiscence from Henny Youngman. This hotel I once visited was incredible. The towels were so fluffy, I could hardly close my suitcase. That's all from QI this time. Good night.